The first thing I do is I get all my stuff ready before I start any cooking. I get all my utensils that I'll need, my mixing bowl, and all the containers that I need to measure everything out in. So we'll start with that. So I think I have most of my utensils here. I have the mixing bowl. I have my bowl that has a little spout on it because I'll be pouring flour into that, and it just makes it nicer with that spout. My dough cutter, 4 cups for my measuring my 2.5 cups of water. I use these for the brown sugar and yeast. This is what I measure. This is a 2 tablespoon jigger for measuring the oil, and I use both the paddle and the dough hook in the mixing. So we'll go from there. Okay, then I get all my ingredients out, so they'll all be ready. Flour, brown sugar, oil, dry milk. I get this online in a bigger bag, a 4-pound bag from Amazon. Dry yeast and salt, and then of course we'll have our water. So what I like to do is, with my handy scales here, I turn it on and the weight is 0, and I put this on there, and then I hit the button for the tare weight to bring it back to 0, and then I measure out eight level cups of flour into it. That's 8 cups of flour. After I do that, I get all 8 cups in there. I go ahead and look at it. It says 41.8 ounces. So that's what I'm going to use. Instead of measuring the cups, I just measure out 41.8 ounces. So what I'll do is I'll take this off, pour it into my other bowl. Usually with the steel bowls, there's not too much left in there. With these, you might want to use paper towel or something to get all the ingredients out. So I put this back on here, and it should come back to 0, which it did. And then I just start putting in flour. I don't have to measure anything. I just put it in until it's 41.8. So then I measure out my salt. I turn this off, bring it back to 0, put the little plate on there, and get the tare weight again. And I measure out 0.5 ounces of salt. And stick that into the flour. Do it again. Then I use brown sugar, 3 heaping tablespoons, or I measured out to 2.1 ounces. So. I found in the sugar it really doesn't matter that much. I mean, just be close. Put that in there. Do that again. On the brown sugar, sometimes there's some real dark lumps. I'll kind of crush them up because they don't mix so well with the flour. So Then I go to my yeast, 0.25 ounces or one package. Okay. So my camera cut out on me when I was measuring in my different ingredients. And maybe it's a good thing, because usually what I do is I measure in all my white ingredients first, salt, flour, and the dry milk. So I use my scales here and measure out 2 ounces of dry milk. I think that's a half a cup if you don't have a scale. And then I put it in with the flour and the salt. And so sorry about missing that. I measure out hot water as hot as my hand can take it, and pour it in 2.5 cups. This is one thing that I make sure is exact. I'll get it real close, and then maybe add a little more with this 2 tablespoon jigger. Then into the water. I think the recipe calls for 2.5 tablespoons of oil, but I actually use 3. I use 1.5 of these. I just pour that right in there. So I've got this white mixing, and go ahead and add the sugar and the yeast. Might turn that up just a bit. Then I go ahead and pour my water in, oil. As soon as that starts to labor, the machine itself, I stop it and then clean it out, then put the dough hook in. So this is still mixing, in about 4 minutes. One of the things I saw on YouTube was they like the dough to be kind of cleaning up the side, and I like that too. That's usually where it is in the beginning. But I found that I like a little bit of the stickiness, or a little more moisture. So just the bottom is kind of sticking to the bowl. And so this is pretty dry, and I'm just gonna, like I said, I don't hardly add more than this. I'll just put a little dab in there when it gets close to the time that. Don't do it all at once, because you have to let it mix in. It doesn't take much. And when I do my second one, I'll kind of show you I'll take the camera off the tripod and show you kind of what I like it to look like. This is still pretty cleaning up the bowl real nice. A little more sticky. That should do it. So I have my dough hooked in there, and I'll run that for 6 minutes or until I like the consistency. Forgot what I was going to do. Oh, okay, my camera. Right here. So I've mixed this for about 6 minutes. It's still kind of sticky in my hands. So what I like to do is stretch it out a little bit. Just make a nice ball out of it. This gets the air out. Okay, once it's like this, I like it. I put this side down, get a little bit of oil on it, kind of roll that in there and flip it over. Now it's nice and oiled up, and I'll put a towel over it so it can rise. So when it starts climbing the
the hook, I know it's pretty moist. I've actually added all the 2 tablespoons of water, and so I think that'll be good. It kind of sticks there on the bottom. The bottom doesn't come up.
I set the timer to 90 minutes. It can go anywhere from 60 minutes to 90 minutes, or even maybe even 120 minutes, depending on the day and how warm it is in your house. But I just kind of keep an eye on it, and when it gets basically double in size, then I'll go ahead and punch it down. And so right now we're waiting for it to rise, and we'll get back to you as soon as it's ready. Okay, it's been about 90 minutes now. My bread dough is risen approximately double in size. So before I'm ready, I take my bread pans out, and I used to hand butter them. I thought that was better, but I think just the cooking spray is just fine. It's a lot easier and it works good. So I do each one of those. So on this one, my dough is pretty much doubled in size. I'm going to go ahead and take it out. And usually I just kind of get it into smaller balls so I can handle it. And I put it on my scales. I measure everything. So 69.5 ounces, so I'll just cut that in half. Oops. 34 point. That's about half. So then I recover this because it does dry out quickly. So I got about 30. So it's about, usually works out to about 17 or 34, but I always cut it in half again. I'll show you what I do. 34. Oops. Yeah, about 17 ounces. Okay, so what I do is, I used to knead it to get the air out, but I found that by doing, stretching it out like this in the top, it actually is getting the air out better than kneading. So I just kind of work it before it gets too dry and get all the air out. And just keep making them, stretching it over itself. See, there's a big pocket right there of air. Kind of pinch that together. Okay. And then on the bottom, I just kind of squeeze it together. Like that. Got most of the air out. Maybe a couple more times. And then I put it in there, put it head up first, and then get it nice and oily and do that. And then I'll do the next one. I'm kind of squeezing it as I, roll it into the balls. It kind of squeezes the air out. Okay. do that again. Oil up the top, more than that, and then put the towel over here. Okay, with this first batch, I'm going to show you what we do now. Rita, my wife, came up with a way to freeze this, because I always like to make 4 loaves. But even with giving it away, it's a lot of bread. So I like to freeze it now. And what we do is after that first rise, we put it in the bread pans. I cover it once this way and then once the other way to keep the air out. Get it all wrapped up, and then find a flat place in your freezer. Put it in there. Okay, the second batch has got pretty much doubled in size. Looks like this. I set my gas oven to 365, and when I'm just doing 2 loaves in there, I just put it in the middle of the oven. Otherwise, I double stack them for 4 loaves. And so now we'll just go ahead and put them in the oven for 30 minutes. And when I'm doing 4 loaves, I set it for 15 minutes because I put the bottom on top and the top on bottom, which just kind of evens it out a little bit. And with 2 loaves, after 15 minutes, I turn them around. So next time you see it, it should be loaves of bread. Okay, everything is all together here. The bread is baked for 30 minutes, and I'm about ready to take them out. Put them on cooling racks. Usually it goes pretty easily. Take them out. Actually, I leave them on this on their sides like this to cool. What that does is put little lines to help you cut. And so that is how I do it. I let this cool way down before I wrap it in anything. I don't want a bunch of moisture in the wrapped up. So that's what we do, and hope you enjoy.